Welcome to part 3 of Freedom and Natural Law. Let's pick up where we left off at natural law expressions. The recognizable workings of natural law in human life take place through 5 basic expressions. Each of these 5 expressions have a positive and negative aspect, giving us a total of 10 overall natural law expressions. All right, so with each expression, there is a positive aspect and a negative aspect. So let's get into what all of this consists of. The first expression is the generative polarity, what we use to create. So this is the foundation. This is where everything starts from. It starts from either love, and then we'll get into the other negative aspect. So love being consciousness, love being openness. You are open to truth. You are open and receptive to understanding who you are, to understanding reality, to understanding what's going on. So the positive generative polarity, the foundation here, is love or consciousness. The positive aspect of the generative polarity is love. In regard to natural law, love should be seen as the expansive force for consciousness. Love is the force which helps us to become open to truth and expand our awareness. Love must be our foundation in order to live in alignment with truth and natural law. So you have to have love. You have to embody love. You have to love yourself and therefore love life. You cannot love yourself without loving life. Love is the expansive force for consciousness. It is the energy that allows you to be receptive to truth and open up to receive truth. Love is seeing beyond belief. Love is seeing things for how they are, seeing things for what they are, seeing the truth of the matter. So we have to have love as our foundation. We have to be operating from a place of pure, unconditional love. And love is unconditional by nature. One of my favorite writers of all time, Khalil Gibran, said, "When you love, you should not think you can direct the course of love. For love, if it finds you worthy, directs your course." You look at love as infinite consciousness, as what you are. At your core, on a spiritual level, we are love. We just pretend like we're not, and we fall into ignorance, we fall into fear. We're going to get into that. And so the positive aspect of the generative polarity is consciousness, or is love. The negative aspect is fear, unconsciousness. So the polar opposite of consciousness or love, fear. The negative aspect of the generative polarity is fear. Fear is the constrictive force, which holds back our progress in consciousness and keeps us from understanding truth. It is a state of unconsciousness which blinds us and ultimately shuts down our awareness. It shuts down our awareness completely because it keeps us from being able to see clearly. It keeps us held back in the mental constructs that we've adopted. It thwarts our progress in consciousness because psychological fear binds us and holds us back to our beliefs. It holds us back to our ideologies, to the erroneous belief systems that we've clung on to our belief in whatever it is. Our beliefs about the world, our beliefs about reality, our beliefs about ourselves. So fear holds us back from understanding truth. It holds us back from generating love and freedom and all the things that we say we want. So the next expression is the initiating expression. So it's just starting the process. Starting the process, we have to have knowledge. We have to have knowledge to start the process in a positive way. In this regard, how I'm using knowledge is the acceptance of truth. It's accepting of truth, real knowledge, understanding who we are, understanding natural law, understanding what government is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the foundation is love, leads to the initiating expression being knowledge. Because if you have love, if your foundation is love, you will be receptive to knowledge. You will be receptive to truth. The positive aspect of the initiating expression is knowledge, or the acceptance of truth. Knowledge positively influences the quality of our lives because it positively influences our decision-making processes in all areas of our lives. As I said in previous slides, we have to have the knowledge of how we operate and how reality operates to really understand what's happening, to actually create balance, to live in harmony with reality, with the truth. To live in harmony with the truth, we have to have knowledge. And we have to understand that knowledge, and we have to apply that knowledge. Frederick Douglass said, "Knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave." Because it does. You will see slavery for what it is if you have knowledge. You can't be enslaved if you have knowledge of how reality works, who you are, your true power. No one can enslave you. No one can bind you back. No one can hold you back. You will unlock your inherent freedom within, and nothing can stop you from expressing that if you have knowledge of who you are and how reality works. So the positive aspect was knowledge. The negative aspect is, or the negative expression is ignorance, the refusal of truth. So fear leads to ignorance, always. Fear doesn't lead to knowledge, ever. Fear, unconsciousness always leads to the refusal of truth, ignorance, because you're not conscious, you're not aware, you're not willing to be aware. You're just embedded in ignorance, stuck in your belief systems, stuck in the ideas that you have about reality. And so you're initiating expression, starting the process from ignorance. So you have no knowledge. You don't have the knowledge of natural law. You don't know how reality operates. So you can't function properly in the world. So you're going to create negative experiences for yourself and others. The negative aspect of the initiating expression is ignorance, or refusal of truth. Ignorance negatively influences the quality of our lives because it negatively influences our decision-making processes in all areas of our lives. Ignorance means not knowing, even though the necessary information is present, because that information has been willfully refused or disregarded. And this is the state that we're in. People are willfully refusing and disregarding knowledge, true knowledge about what's happening in the world, the facts about what's going on in the world, about who they are, about everything. And they're just in, la-la land, lollygagging through ignorant land. We can't have this. We can't have this to create a world of balance. You can't just magically poof into a world of balance and freedom while remaining in a state of ignorance. And here you go. This is the human condition right here. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. So you're just refusing reality completely. You're refusing to see the world that you live in because you're refusing to see yourself ultimately. The most violent element in society is ignorance, says Emma Goldman. And this is absolutely true. The most violent element in society is ignorance. People are embedded in fear that leads to ignorance. And so people are coming from a place of ignorance. They think they got it figured out. They think they know what's going on. And they just perpetuate that ignorance and propagate it, and then ignorance begets ignorance. And you just got a bunch of people that are just ignorant following each other because it's easier to stay in ignorance when you're in a state of unconsciousness than to absorb truth and find out who you are. Because knowing the truth and having love implies self-awareness. Love implies I am actively, or I have healed my shadows. I have healed my demons. I have looked at myself. But we remain ignorant because we're not willing to do that work. Because that's the work that we have to start with, is ourselves. Mark Passio said, willful ignorance in the presence of knowledge is the measure of a bad person. Absolutely. If you're willfully refusing knowledge, it's in your face. If you're willfully ignoring what is the truth of things, you are inevitably acting like a bad person. Person coming from, I believe it's the Greek or Latin, persona, which means mask. Fake means fake. If you're willfully ignoring knowledge in your face, the truth, you're inevitably going to be embodying the characteristics of a bad person. That's just how it is. Miles Davis, knowledge is freedom and ignorance is slavery. There you go. No euphemisms, just straight to the point, cut and dry. Knowledge is freedom and ignorance is slavery. And Thomas Jefferson lastly said, if a nation expects to be ignorant and free in a state of civilization, it expects what never was and never will be. You cannot have freedom and ignorance. It is impossible. It is impossible. It's an impossibility to have ignorance and freedom. You have to have knowledge to establish a world of freedom, to establish a state of freedom. Knowledge must be obtained and applied and understood and then embodied. So the initiating expression leads to the internal expression. So what happens inside of us as a result of having knowledge or having ignorance? And the positive aspect of the internal expression is sovereignty, or internal monarchy, as Mark Passio calls it. Internal monarchy is one ruler within. One ruler within. I am my own ruler. No one has the right to rule over me. The positive aspect of the internal expression is sovereignty, or what can be referred to as internal monarchy, one ruler within. As a state of consciousness, sovereignty means that one has unified the three aspects which their consciousness flows through to the extent that there is no contradiction between one's thoughts, emotions, and actions. So you are fully online. You are fully conscious and aware of yourself and your surroundings. You know what's happening. You can read the matrix code and you understand that you are a sovereign being. You are a sovereign being. You are responsible for yourself, and you are the only one in the universe that has the right to rule over yourself. You own your body. You are responsible for your thoughts. You're not responsible for the thoughts of others. You're not responsible for the healing of others. You're not responsible for the sovereignty of others. You are a sovereign being within yourself. No one has the right to rule over you. So you have to have no contradiction between your thoughts, emotions, and actions. It means if you're thinking one thing and then you're acting in another way, you're not embodying sovereignty. You're not embodying true knowledge. You don't have true knowledge if your thoughts contradict your emotions and contradict your actions. You have to have 100% balance between your thoughts, emotions, and actions. The word sovereign is derived from the Latin adverb super, above, and the Latin noun regnum, rulership and control. Thus, sovereign means one who is above the rulership or control of another. Sovereign means not a subject or a slave. So what happens inside of us as a result of fear and ignorance is confusion or internal anarchy. Internal anarchy meaning there's no ruler within. No one's home. There's no one home. It's just programming, just conditioning operating the vessel. So inevitably you're going to be torn into multiple directions because you're just going to be acting in ways which your society tells you to act. The negative aspect of the internal expression is confusion, or what can be referred to as internal anarchy. No ruler within. Confusion is the state of mind in which the being is ruled by fear and ignorance. Confusion could be seen as internal opposition or being torn apart from within, such that one's thoughts, emotions, and actions are in perpetual contradiction to each other. And this is the state that humanity is in right now. And it has been for a long time, just confusion. And then there's a lot of people that are in straight ignorance thinking they got it figured out, but deep down they're confused. But they're not willing to face that they're confused. If you were willing to face your confusion, then there might be a spark of awakening through that, but no. So the foundation leads to the initiating expression, which leads to the internal expression, which leads to the external expression, the manifestation, the physical manifestation in society. So what happens in society as a result of your foundation being love or consciousness, having knowledge, having accepted the truth and brought it into your being and lived it through sovereignty, understanding that you are your own master, you are your own ruler only. No one has the right to rule over another, which leads to the external expression of freedom, external anarchy. The positive aspect of the external expression is freedom, or what can be referred to as external anarchy, no external ruler. True freedom for all should be seen as the ultimate goal of spiritual development. Such a state can only manifest when human society collectively lives in alignment with natural law. Freedom can only be expressed and be manifested when the society who wishes to be free lives in alignment with natural law. Your foundation has to be love. You have to absorb and take in knowledge and apply it and become it. You have to realize that you are a sovereign being and your state of being is sovereignty. Regardless if you believe it or not, you are a sovereign being from birth, and that will lead to freedom. That's the only way. That's the only true path to freedom. And then fear leads to ignorance, leads to confusion, which leads to the external expression of control, external monarchy, one ruler without. Or in other words, someone will rule you if nobody's home. Nobody's home. There's somebody in this world today that's going to take over your mind, take over your being, take over your life. The negative aspect of the external expression is control, or what can be referred to as external monarchy, one external ruler. Control is the pathway to all forms of evil and destruction. It results when a society lives in direct opposition to natural law. If you live in direct opposition to natural law, this is the result, and we see this today. This is happening today. And then lastly, the manifestation, the result we create, the result of having a foundation of love, having knowledge, understanding our sovereignty, living in our sovereignty, manifesting freedom. The result is order, or manifested good, or manifested balance. So love leads to knowledge, leads to sovereignty, leads to freedom, and leads to order. The positive manifestation is order, or manifested goodness. Order represents everything we say we want. Order results only when there is balance or moral rightness, which can only be present when truth has been accepted and integrated, and our behavior has been brought into harmony with natural law. Order results only when there is balance, or individuals in society on an individual level and collectively living in moral rightness, or living morally correct, living moral lives, or just living commonsensically. This is all common sense, really. It is common sense. But we've been so heavily programmed in the opposite direction, and everything's been so inverted. You have to really look at yourself and listen to your heart to be able to sense and feel the truth. So our behavior has to be brought into harmony with natural law for order to be established. And then fear leads to ignorance, leads to confusion, leads to control, and then finally leads to chaos or manifested evil. The negative manifestation is chaos or manifested evil. Chaos is the exact opposite of what we say we want. Chaos results when there is widespread imbalance and injustice, which is a direct result of widespread ignorance of truth and behavior which is in opposition to natural law. And here's the result. If you see what's happening in the world, if you see clearly with clear eyes and you're fully awake, you're conscious of yourself and your surroundings, if you can see with clear eyes, you can see this without everyone's guard up, without the smiling masks. This is what people look like. Seriously, this is what people look like. Without not only the smiling masks, but the masks that people are wearing today, the physical masks on their face. This is what they look like, especially on the inside. On the inside, this is what people really look like as a result of fear, as a result of ignorance, as a result of being absolutely confused. Everyone's always torn. This is the current state. This is the current human condition. Only there's masks over these beings' faces now. So people are becoming more brain dead than ever. So it can only go in one direction. Love or consciousness can only lead to knowledge or the acceptance of truth, which can only lead to sovereignty or internal monarchy, which can only lead to freedom or external anarchy, which can only lead to order or manifested good. And real quick, to backtrack, anarchy means no masters, no external masters. And so if you have no masters, you have no slaves. And then fear or unconsciousness, unself-awareness, can only lead to ignorance or the refusal of truth, which can only lead to confusion or internal anarchy, no ruler within, which can only lead to control, which is external monarchy, someone's ruling you, which can only lead to chaos or manifested evil. It cannot do this. You cannot have love, and love can automatically just transfer into ignorance. You can't have it. It's not possible. You can't go from fear to freedom. Impossible. It is impossibility to live in a state of fear and simultaneously exist in a state of freedom. It's impossible. You have to go through, you have to understand your sovereignty, you have to have knowledge, and your foundation has to be love to have freedom. You cannot go from knowledge to control. If you have knowledge of who you are, it can only lead to freedom. If you have knowledge of how this reality works of natural law, it can only lead to freedom. It cannot lead to control. And a lot of people think that this can magically happen in this world. They do. A lot of people think that they can just be ignorant, and out of ignorance will just somehow blossom freedom. Won't happen, can never happen. And then chaos can never magically turn into order. It's impossible. But today, how many people do you see that believe that this notion that can happen? Like the Great Awakening and stuff. Like, what do you think just because some information is going to be revealed, do you think there's going to be a Great Awakening? No, people have to go through this process. They have to love themselves and understand who they are. Take in knowledge of who they are. Take in knowledge of how reality works. Understand their sovereignty. Establish freedom within themselves and then without themselves, outside of themselves, to establish order. You can't go from fear, ignorance, confusion, control, chaos, and then order. Can never happen. Can never happen. It can only go in this direction. Love can only ultimately lead to order, and fear can only ultimately lead to chaos every single time. William James said, the first act of freedom is to choose it. You have to choose to live in love. You have to choose to accept knowledge. You have to choose to take in knowledge and absorb knowledge. You have to choose to live in sovereignty. It's a choice. It's a choice. And you have to choose freedom. You say, I'm going to establish freedom no matter what the cost, no matter what. I'm here to establish freedom. I am freedom. I am freedom, and I choose freedom over all else, no matter what. So what do you choose? Do you choose order or do you choose chaos? Do you choose freedom or do you choose slavery? The choice is yours, because right now, this is where we're at. Understanding right and wrong. The difference between right and wrong does not fluctuate. It is immutable, said Patrick Henry. Morality. A deep understanding of morality lies at the very heart of natural law. Another name for natural law is moral law, or the laws of morality. In this image here, conformity is doing what everybody else is doing regardless of what is right. And then morality is doing what is right regardless of what everyone else is doing. And this is what we need. This is what we need. This is what's happening, conformity right now in the world. This is what we need. People living morally, no matter what everybody else is doing. Understanding rights. Rights are most easily understood when they are filtered through apophatic inquiry. Apophasis means to describe what something is by describing what it is not. This process helps us to understand what a right actually is by understanding which actions are not rights because they do cause harm to others. So a right is correct, it's based in truth, it's moral because it's in harmony with natural law, and actions based in it do not result in harm to other sentient beings. And honestly, right and wrong is this cut and dry, is this simple. And the reason why our rights are being taken away and the world is the way it is largely is because we do not understand what a right is. It's this simple. It's this simple. Pause this slide, take a picture of it, study it, study it, study it, take it in, take it in, take it in. And then a wrong. It's incorrect because it's not based in truth. It's immoral because it goes in direct opposition to natural law, and actions based in it result in harm to other sentient beings. Again, it's that simple. Okay, natural law transgressions. The 5 natural law transgressions or harmful actions are murder and assault, rape, theft, trespass, and coercion. These are wrongdoings. Every harmful action that a human being is capable of taking is a form of theft. Some form of property is always being stolen when a wrongdoing is committed. Life is a form of property. Rights are a form of property, and freedom is a form of property. And again, these are words that we're using here. Okay? People could debate this. I understand why. I understand the different angles that you can take when it comes to this. But we're using words to minimize and to get to the point quicker, to be able to get to the understanding quicker. So it is most easily understood when you see it from this lens and this angle. To me, it is, at least. So murder or assault, you are stealing or taking a life which does not belong to you or you don't have the right to take. Rape, you are entering into somebody or taking somebody's sexual preference away, somebody's ability to choose for themselves a sexual partner. Nobody has the right to do that. And a lot of times when it comes to rape, there's also assault happening with rape. So it's a 2-in-1 combo that is completely immoral and is a natural law transgression. Theft, stealing something that does not belong to you, taking something that does not belong to you, that is not yours to take. Trespassing is you're entering somebody's domain without their permission. Coercion, stealing somebody's right to think for themselves and make decisions on their own. Ability to go places that they want to go. Be free on their own terms. Be just free in general. Coercion is threatening somebody with violence if they do not conform. Threatening somebody with violence if they do not do something that is being told of them. Nobody has that right. It's a harmful action as a natural law transgression. Nobody has that right to threaten somebody with violence to get them to do something that they don't want to do. A living being or their property must have been harmed in order for a violation of natural law or a wrongdoing to have taken place. Any action which does not cause such harm is a right. So no victim, no crime. If there's no victim, there's no crime done. And remember, a right is any action which does not do harm to another sentient being, and a wrong is an action which does do harm to another sentient being. And it's that cut and dry. It is that black and white. It really is. People don't want to hear that. People don't want to believe that. People make rights and wrongs out to be this complex web of, intricacies that you can't come to understand. No, it's really simple. It's really simple. There is no such thing as the delegation of a wrong. In other words, if a specific action is not a right for any individual, then that action cannot be delegated, granted, or licensed to any other individual or group and magically called a right. This can never happen. That action forever remains a wrong under natural law. So you cannot delegate to somebody a wrong and magically turn it into a right. Just because you delegate a wrong to somebody doesn't make it a right. Never, ever, ever is that a thing. Never. It doesn't matter Who told you? It doesn't matter what alien or extraterrestrial race convinced you that you can do certain things because your blood or because of your genetics or because it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who you think you are. Doesn't matter how many titles you have. Doesn't matter how high in the pyramid you are. Don't matter. Bottom of the pyramid, top of the pyramid, middle of the pyramid, all the same rights. All the same rights. Under natural law, everybody has the same rights. If a specific action is not a right for any individual, then that action cannot be delegated or granted to any other individual or group. A wrong cannot be turned into a right, and a right cannot be turned into a wrong. This goes in direct opposition to popular belief. Most people believe that there are people out there that can magically turn a right into a wrong and vice versa. The truth is, these things can never happen in reality, regardless of how many people believe that they can. Rights are inherent to creation and have been ingrained into the fabric of reality by the creator of the universe itself. They are objective, immutable, unalterable, and unchangeable. Okay, let's get into force versus violence. A lot of people don't know this right here. A lot of people don't know what the difference between force and violence is. Force and violence are often spoken about as if they are the same and used interchangeably, when in fact they are diametrically opposed polar opposites. Force is the capacity to do work or cause physical change, energy, strength, active power. Force is action which is in harmony with morality and natural law because it does not violate others' rights. And force is an action or any action which one always possesses the right to take, includes defense against violence. So using defensive force is not an act of violence. Violence is the immoral initiation of physical power to coerce, compel, or restrain. Violence is coercive action which is in opposition to morality and natural law because it involves the violation of others' rights, because you're doing harm to another sentient being, which constitutes a violent act, an act of violence. Violence is an action or actions which one never possesses the right to take, ever, no matter who told you to do it, no matter where the order's coming from, no matter what you believe. To act in violence is to act in a way which no one ever possesses the right, no matter your beliefs, no matter your programming, no matter your conditioning, no matter what you think about the world, no matter what you think you are, no matter what kind of clothes you wear, badges you have, or titles you have, you never have the right to harm another sentient being. Human beings possess the natural right to defend themselves from violence with defensive physical force. A person who is accosted by violence possesses the right to stop the person who is conducting the violence with any amount of force necessary to stop the attack, up to and including deadly force, depending on the situation. You have to feel that out for yourself if you get yourself in a certain situation where you need to use defensive force to stop an act of violence. So somebody who's accosted by violence, no matter who it is that's accosting the individual or holding the individual down or acting violently towards the individual, no matter who it is, no matter what they represent, no matter where they come from, the individual who is being violently attacked or coerced has every single right in accordance to natural law to defend themselves and their property and their rights, no matter what you believe. So, does violence become a right when government does it? Do I even need to answer that question? The question answers itself. What's your first thought? What's your first intuition? Beyond this presentation, what's your first feeling about that? Anybody with half a brain cell would say, no, never. Never does violence become a right when government does it. So, macing people, peacefully protesting, just macing people, this looks like straight bear mace. I mean, you have to be the most callous, cut off individual on the planet to initiate such harm to another being. Really, you might as well just take the mace cannons and face it directly towards your own eyes and your own face, because that's what you're basically doing there. People have no idea. People have no idea the harm that they're doing to themselves when they initiate such acts of terror and violence. Going in and stealing property from other people. All of this, absolutely immoral. Absolutely immoral. Taking guns, taking substances, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We have the right to possess whatever we want to possess. We have the right to have as many firearms, as many weapons as we want. And no one can tell us that we can have a limited amount of whatever it is. As long as we're not doing harm to anybody, no one has the right to coerce us into not having certain substances, not having certain weapons, not having certain whatever. We have the right to ingest what we want to ingest into our own bodies. We have the right to have in our possession anything that we want. Tanks, magazines of unlimited capacity, substances, doesn't matter how harmful they are when ingested. It is everybody's right to use substances as they see fit. It's everybody's right. It's their body. Now, you can't force anybody to take a substance. You can't force anybody or coerce somebody into taking a substance. To trade substances, to trade firearms, to trade, perfectly legal, perfectly fine. You're not doing harm to anybody. And a lot of people don't want to hear this. A lot of people do not want to hear this. A lot of people refuse this information, refuse this inherent truth. So these thugs going in and stealing the very same thing that their masters put onto the streets. It's the classic problem reaction solution. The control system creates a problem, they gauge the reaction from the populace, and then they come up with the solution. Classic psychopathic behavior. Do you have the right to pull somebody over because you see that they're driving a certain way, or they are driving over a speed limit? No. No one has the right to do that. Nobody. It doesn't matter who you think you are. It doesn't matter what kind of title you have or what kind of badge you or the badges that you carry. It doesn't matter. You don't have that right. Nobody has that right. I've driven on plenty of country roads, and these roads have no speed limit whatsoever. You won't see a speed limit sign for 50, hundreds of miles sometimes. And I naturally just want to go a fine speed. I'm not like, oh, no speed limit? Oh, 200 miles per hour? No, I go like 40, 50. I'm just cruising. There's a different feeling to it. You're not restricted. You're not tied down. You're not held back. You're not limited. Speed limit. That's the problem with the world. There's a speed limit on everything. Your learning, your growth, your everything in this world. You have no limits. Be yourself. So human beings naturally aren't going to just fly off the rail and just start going crazy if there's no speed limit. Who's going to make sure everyone's not going crazy? You see, that's a construct. They created that. They created the idea if we have no government or we have no speed limit or whatever it is, there's just going to be absolute chaos. And there might be for a little bit. And you have to embrace that reality. You have to embrace that the potential. You have to embrace the potential for chaos. But that's maybe what it takes to live in a free world, to live in freedom. So no one has the right to pull somebody over. Nobody has the right to, and this is an act of violence. You are threatening somebody with violence if they do not pull over. Just by putting these lights on behind somebody, you are coercing somebody into conformity. You don't have that right. Nobody has that right. I don't care who you are. And this is where we're at right here. This is where we're at. Tanks. Yeah, we're just here to maintain peace and harmony and balance in the world. We're us police officers with full-on riot gear and highly sophisticated tanks. Looks like a freaking AI device up here. I don't even know what the hell was going on with these tanks these days that they're using against their own citizens, their brothers and sisters they live amongst. I mean, how brainwashed do you have to be? And this moron right here. Make sure you pay your taxes, otherwise you can get into a lot of trouble. That's how they do it. They coerce you and they threaten you with death. They threaten you with violence to get you to conform. Nobody has the right to initiate or enact violence upon another, no matter what. And look at the faces of these individuals. Study the faces of these individuals. You can see all the pain and all the trauma and all the bullying that they were, subjected to when they were younger, and all the mommy and daddy issues that they have. Look at them. Just big babies and are psychologically broken. It's all order followers are. That's all. I was an order follower. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I know. I was in the same mindset. I had the same mindset, only I wasn't like so callous to where I would initiate harm and violence upon other people. I never did. I never did in the Marines. I never did. But I saw so many fucked up people, so many fucked up minds, just broken. A lot of people just, grew up on violent video games and they just wanted to enact that in real life. And that's how they get individuals to join those forces as well. You grow up playing Call of Duty and stuff your whole life, and now all you want to do is kill people. It's so sad and you want to kill people because you yourself are dead, because you killed yourself. You made a choice to kill yourself. Society says, kill yourself. And that's the program. Kill yourself. Kill your true self. And so we're walking around dead, and now we want to kill other people. We want to make sure everybody else is dead as well. And that's the root of it. That's the root of it. And then just this one picture, for obvious reasons. Study this picture. It's so sad. This is so sad. Already programming a small child driving her little fancy car. All the programming happening in this. This is a very powerful message that extends way beyond what this picture depicts. Programming a child to conform. And they probably think it's cute. Look at this guy over here, just taking a video or taking pictures. Oh, how cute. Oh, how cute. There's nothing cute, silly, or funny about this. This is disgusting. Most people will find this so funny and cute. Ha ha. Oh. It's terribly disgusting. I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't a real ticket. All right, moving on to the 2 pillars. The 2 pillars of enlightenment. So there's a sacred feminine principle or the non-aggression principle. The first pillar of enlightenment is the sacred feminine principle, also called the non-aggression principle. This principle states, do not engage in violence. The non-aggression principle states, do not engage in violence. It's that simple. Just don't hurt each other. Just don't hurt one another. Don't act in ways or don't give your energy to systems that are hurting others. In other words, do not immorally initiate non-rightful use of physical power to coerce, constrain, or compel the rightful physical behavior or free will choice of another sentient being. It's really, really, really simple. Seriously, it's stupid simple. Don't hurt one another. Ask questions before you act. Ask questions before you feed a thought. Ask questions before you initiate any type of action in the world. Ask, is this action going to lead to the suffering of others? Is this action going to lead to me harming another being? Am I voting for this master going to harm other beings? Is my putting my energy towards this system going to ultimately harm other sentient beings, human beings, animal life, the earth in general? You have to ask these questions. And then the second pillar of enlightenment is the sacred masculine principle or the self-defense principle. The principle states, sentient beings have the inherent right to use force to defend themselves from violence conducted upon them by another. This is inherent to creation. No matter who believes it or not, this is a fact. It doesn't matter who is conducting the violence. We have the right to defend that violence with any amount of force necessary to stop the violence. So when you bring them together, the sacred feminine, sacred masculine principle, or the non-aggression principle, and the self-defense principle, you have a spiritually awakened, online, connected human being that is reconnected into awareness of who they are. We have to exercise both brain hemispheres, both modalities. And like Mark Passio says, do no harm, but take no shit. That's how we have to live in every moment. Do no harm, but take no shit. All right, now we're going to get into conscience, what conscience means. Conscience comes from the Latin prefix con, which means together, and the Latin verb sciere, to know and to understand. So conscience means to know together, or common sense. Conscience is common sense. All of this knowledge should be common sense, but we've been so diverted and so steered away from this knowledge, and we're so far gone that we don't have common sense whatsoever. It's virtually non-existent in today's world. And I see plenty of people that are exercising common sense. When I go out in the world and I start walking around in the world and I start driving around, I'm seeing no common sense at all. So to know together, conscience means to know together. Common sense is the definitive knowledge of the objective difference between right and wrong according to natural law. That's common sense. That's exercising true conscience. Conscience is utilizing one's own free will to choose right action over wrong action. Once the knowledge of the objective difference between right and wrong according to natural law has been acquired and integrated. So you have to have the knowledge of right and wrong. You have to understand what rights are and what constitutes a wrong behavior to exercise your free will to choose right over wrong consciously. And everyone's making a choice no matter what. Natural law works perfectly. It works flawlessly. If you initiate a harmful action, you're going to receive the consequence for that harmful action that you radiated throughout the universe. If you exercise a right action, you'll receive a return for that action as a direct result for that action. So we have to make a choice. And no matter how ignorant you are, no matter what, you still have a choice. You still have a choice. The slide we're going to pick back up on is the law of freedom. We're going to get into what the law of freedom is and go from there. And the next segment will be the last segment, part 4 of Freedom and Natural Law. Thanks for being here. I'll see you at part 4.